Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise this meeting is being streamed live to the internet. All those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements, and upon joining these online meetings, you accept the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. I now open the February 2024 Ordinary Council meeting of Council, the time being 5:30 p.m. Can I ask Councillor Wright to do the prayer, please?
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. O God, grant that by the knowledge of thy will, all we may resolve shall work together for good. We pray through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor Wright. Could I ask Councillor Burns to do acknowledgement of country, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are traditional custodians of the land. I'd also like to pay respect to elders past, present, emerging of the Wiradjuri Nation and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people from other nations who are present. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. We have CCL 24/01, leave of absence. We have all councillors present. So I'll move on to the next item on the agenda. CCL 24/02, conflicts of interest. Can I have Councillor Black declare his conflict, please?
Yes, thank you. I'll declare a pecuniary interest in item CCL 24/19, the planning proposal regarding the minimum lot size of 20 L Rocky Road, Dubbo. The reason for my interest is that I own a block of land on Warrie Road and Old Dubbo Road near the subject holding, and in order to maintain public confidence, I'll leave the room while the matter is considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Mann.
Declare conflict of interest, CCL 24/26, non-pecuniary unless insignificant. The reason being I own property in Blue Ridge Business Park, which is part of the subject of discussions.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Do we have any other councillors who should declare any conflicts in the meeting? No, thank you. Now, before we move on to public forum, I do have a presentation to make to Samantha Thompson, and Samantha is in the audience. I just can't see her. I think she's hidden away there behind Councillor Black. So if you want to come forward, please, Samantha. Samantha won the 2024 Young Sportsperson of the Year for Wellington this year. A huge list of achievements, including a silver medal in the 17 years 5 km New South Wales State Open Swim, 9th place in the 17 years 10 km New South Wales State Open Water, silver medal in the 17 years 800 metre freestyle New South Wales Senior State Age Championships, and too many more to continue on with Samantha. Unfortunately, or fortunately maybe, Samantha was competing when the Australia Day ceremony was held in Wellington, so you weren't able to pick up your award on that particular day. So I'll come around in a minute and present this to you, but congratulations, well done on a fantastic effort again, and look forward to great things from you. And I'll ask Councillor Ivey, because Councillor Ivey ran the ceremony in Wellington, to come forward. He would have been presenting it to you down in Wellington if you had been there. Congratulations. Thank you, Samantha. Again, congratulations, and a shame you weren't there on the Australia Day, but it's good to see you come along here and collect that award. Next item is CCL 24/03, Public Forum. At the moment, I have 2 speakers registered for Public Forum. I'll go through those 2 speakers first, and then if there's time available, then there'll be an opportunity for anyone to come forward from the Public Forum. So the first person I've got to come forward is Mr. Will Martell regarding CCL 24/20 in our meeting tonight. Now, just I'll give the instruction for Will, which will be the same for everyone. There's 5 minutes in public forum. So when you start speaking, you've got 5 minutes. After 4 minutes and 30 seconds, I'll ding a bell, or I'll tap a glass so you know that you've got 30 seconds left. And at 5 minutes, I'll ask people to stop speaking if you're still going at that time. So thank you, Will. The microphone is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Will Martell. I'm a farmer from out near Gollan, quite close to the where the Spices Creek wind farm is going to happen, and just down the road from where the Forest Rail crossing is at the moment, and that's where the money is being prepared to go to. So basically, Gollan community does not support the Forest Rail Road Causeway being the strategic project for the Spices Creek Wind Farm planning agreement. Funding from Spices Creek Wind Farm is not guaranteed. The wind farm is not a guaranteed project at the moment. The Forest Rail Road Causeway should not be reliant on potential external funding, and it should be fixed by the Darra Regional Council ASAP. Forest Rail Road Causeway will not be significantly affected by the Spices Creek Wind Farm traffic, the proposed Spices Creek Wind Farm traffic. Going on the sums provided throughout the draft planning agreement, which you've all got, it's approximately $3 million to be spent on the Forest Rail Causeway over 5 years as their one strategic project. It seems like an enormous amount of money to spend on basically putting in upgrading the culverts. The Gollan community would like to have input into how the Darra Regional Council allocates and spends the potential funds that the Spices Creek Wind Farm is going to provide. To date, Gollan community has put in 2 submissions to the draft planning agreement for the Spices Creek Wind Farm. There's also been a meeting there at the Gollan Hall. There's been part of the second submission that the Gollan community made. We have 44 signatures from the Gollan community to support that submission. And that's, if anyone knows Gollan community, that's a fair chunk of the actual community. So if you refer to, in your packs, for the meeting packs, to page 261, 262, 263 and 264 to see the notes from the 2 rounds of this public submissions and the community meetings that the Darra Regional Council held, and they will basically backing up the same thing that I've said about not wanting the Forest Rail Road Causeway as a strategic project. So my question to councillors is, what is the point of what's the point of a public consultation if through the draft planning agreement, if the planning agreement is only made superficial changes, essentially, like the big points that the Gollan community has raised have just been basically washed off. So that's basically, I'd basically like some answers from the council as to why do we bother making public submissions?
Sorry, is that the end of your presentation? We don't give answers in public forum,
Yeah, no,
Mr. Martel,
fine.
so
No, that's
you can
that's
pose
fine.
questions, but it's not a question and answer.
Okay,
forum.
no, well, yeah, I'd like to take any questions from you guys if you've got questions then. Yeah.
So that's the end of your presentation there? Yep. Thank you. That's the end of the public forum. Thank you, Mr. Martel.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker that's registered is Marianne Dean. If you'd like to come forward, Ms. Dean, and the same rules apply. 5 minutes, and just in your one, because yours isn't on the agenda for discussion tonight, can you just state what yours is about first and then continue on with your public forum? Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. And
You might just need to come a bit closer to the microphone there. Yeah, put it down a bit. Yep, thank you.
Okay, sorry, thank you. So my name's Marianne Dean, and I just wanted to come along tonight to bring to the council's attention the intention of Reflections Holiday Parks wanting to relocate the 5 cabins down there that they actually hire out at the moment. So that's why I'm here tonight. We actually, sorry, I forgot my glasses. I'm aware that Reflections are currently hold a contract with Crown Lands, which is state government owned. I completely get that, and we are awaiting further information for Dougal Saunders. But I just wanted to come along tonight as a site holder and a community member of Stewart Town to just give you guys the heads up on what's going on. The cabin, I did actually receive a letter from Reflections yesterday afternoon, late yesterday afternoon. But I'm not really confident in this letter, to the true fact that I invited them to come along to a community meeting on Saturday, and invited a representative to come along, and they've just responded. They've responded to me saying no confirmed plans for the cabins, but I actually had confirmation from the Newcastle head office last Thursday over a phone call to say that they were looking at a redevelopment plan to start in either March or April to actually relocate these cabins. So I just wanted to say, like I was at the dam over the Christmas period from Christmas Day until the 7th of January, in which the cabins were completely booked out the whole time. People, families, everyone there. They aren't used completely all the time, but there's another story about cost. They're one of the highest costings in the area. They're even more expensive than Burrendong Dam and Lake Cooper to actually hire per night. They're $296 per night for 2 adults and 2 children. So that is another issue that I'd like to bring up with the state government about the cost, and should they have a peak or an off-peak price to bring more people out to stay at the cabins. We've also had a petition running since the 8th of January, and we're actually almost about to hit 1,000 signatures on that petition to actually stop the sale or relocation of these cabins. So they've been used in the past, for example, by State Rail for track works and upgrades. Fishermen families, fossickers from all over Australia attend Muckawar Dam. It's actually known for the fossickers to be actually good for the gold down there. So as a community member too, this will kill Stuart Town. The shops just recently reopened. The pub, they rely on this thoroughfare traffic to come out to this park and support them, and especially through them summer periods. That's how they survive, like even through the quieter periods. So I spoke to many older fishermen over the past several weeks about what was happening, and they actually were very upset because through winter time they like to hire a cabin and come out for a few nights and go fishing. But they did say the cost is a bit extreme for them now that they're retirees. So this Saturday we're holding a general meeting at the Ironbark Inn in Stuart Town, just as an information for anyone that would like to come along and give what information I've found out so far. I just wanted to bring it to your attention tonight and ask if maybe you could consider a vote to oppose the move of these cabins once we have all this supporting information behind us, and then you could probably present that letter to state government on our behalf. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms Dean.
Yep.
As per our code of meeting practice, if there are any other speakers, we've still got time left in public forum. If there are any other speakers who wish to come forward and speak at public forum, then do so now. Otherwise, we'll move on. Any other speakers? No. Thank you to our 2 speakers tonight. Next item on the agenda, CCL 24/04, confirmation of minutes. If someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Wright. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. The next item, CCL 24/5. Have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Any discussion or debate? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/6, building summary. Have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Burns. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Or, sorry, Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll do only a comment. Obviously, that there's good to see some great activity. A couple of large items there that really prop up the volumes. I guess overall the trend is wavering a little bit. We've come through a pretty strong couple of years, and Dubbo still seems to be pretty resilient. But I think the overall economy, with respect to construction and interest rates, probably look like it's having a little bit of an impact on those numbers finally. But still, the demand still seems to be there, and Dubbo keeps hanging on. So, yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Wright. Any other speakers on this particular item? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/7, status of notices of motion. If someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Chowdhury, we should speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just briefly said, it's a fantastic report for the community to have a look what council is currently working on the motion, all these council are bringing, so they can get some idea the progress of those notice of motion. So I'll request to the committee to have a look this notice of motion, and any query just reach to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/8, investment under section 625 for December. Have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Mann, seconded by Councillor Burns. Councillor Mann, do you wish to speak to that? Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/9, investment on section 625 for January 2024. Have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Burns. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to that?
All good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/10, update on investigations on potential boundary alteration with North Yeovil. Someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Ivey, seconded by Councillor Wells. Councillor Ivey, do you speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I would encourage and commend the staff on the work that's been done so far. I think that relocation and of boundaries makes a whole lot of sense. I presume Cabon are also on board with it. The only thing I'd like to see is that the Cabon, while Dubbo Regional Council is doing the investigation, that we're assured that Cabon are aware of what we're doing and are moving with us perhaps towards that same aim. But perhaps just a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CEO to see that that is in fact happening.
I can vouch for the first part of it. I've certainly had informal discussions with the Mayor, Gavin Beattie of Cabon Council, and I'm happy to throw to the CEO to see what discussions have occurred there at that level as well. Mr. CEO.
Yeah, similarly, just informal conversations, knowing this is coming, so as a heads up. So now with this resolution, we can formalise that conversation as well. So very much aware, and it is one of those ones where whilst we have to pay Cabon to provide the service for bins and water and sewer, so it is a current clunky arrangement, so they're quite supportive.
And you may remember, Councillor Ivey, that you and I actually went to a town meeting in Yeovil, and one of the discussions that was put forward was about some of the inefficiencies, about the fact that we had the little bit over the creek and that we had to do some of the maintenance and the cemetery and those type of items. So there's been a few discussions over a couple of years about the inefficiencies resulting in Yeovil being cut in probably a third, 1/3 our side and 2/3 the other side from that. So it makes sense. It's a logical sort of progression there. Any other, sorry, that was a question you had there, Councillor Ivey. You want to finish off with any discussion on that? You still have the floor if you wish to use that.
Just if I could add to that, again, during the amalgamation, it would have been the logical time to have made that change. But as I understand it, the state government said that with the amalgamation, there shall be no boundary adjustments at that time. So maybe that would have been a better time to do it. But let's keep working with it now.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Marm, were you putting your hand up there?
I just have yourself or Mr. CEO had any discussions with the local community out there that they would be typically in favour of something like this?
Certainly the only, again, informal discussions when Councillor Ivey and myself were at that Yeovil meeting, it was almost the community there present. That's not the whole community, but it was almost the community there saying, why is there a boundary in the creek? It doesn't make sense. So on the back of that was where certainly I came back and had some discussions with the CEO. So for that group that was in there, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Councillor Ivey, but it would have been 30 people minimum in that hall that night we had that meeting. So I think in general, there's a bit of a feeling that everyone in Yeovil and North Yeovil is part of the same community. So it probably doesn't make sense to them that there's a creek that just cuts down the part of it and then a bit goes into Dubbo and a bit goes into Cabon. So the people I've spoken to, certainly informally, no surveys or anything, they certainly were supportive of the idea. But that would be something that would formalise more as we went forward with the idea.
There's an update, if I could.
Yeah, certainly.
Ms. Coomer.
Thank you. Ms. Coomer.
Well, just two comments that I'd make in regards to that question. The actual notion of looking at investigations on potential LGA boundary adjustments came from the community, and that's how it got into the operational plan as well, and that specifically was requesting an examination of the North Yeovil area, and we've also had communications with the North Yeovil community representative of the Village Community Committee just in this last week to ensure that she was aware that this report was going up and that community was aware, and has been discussed briefly at the Village Community Committee as well. And indications from that conversation was that certainly the North Yeovil residents, and also she can't speak on behalf of everyone, but the Yeovil residents more broadly are keen to see some greater efficiencies out there of how they can, advocate for their community and have efficiencies of capital works and the like as well.
Thank you, Ms. Coomer. So a good question, Councillor Marn. Anything further, Councillor Marn? Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey, you have a right of reply, but you probably don't really need it based on that. Okay, thank you. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/11 monthly reporting snapshot for councillors. Councillor Chowdhury, you have an alternative motion you wish to move there?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the item to be deferred to the Corporate Service Committee to be held on 11th April 2024 in order to allow relevant amendments to be made. Thank you.
So thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. So moving a motion to defer that. Can someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to that motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can I just make a correction there?
Certainly, a correction on the motion that was read out.
Yep. So sorry, there's a bit of a mistake in the date. If council could consider, it's the March standing committees, and that
What date?
that was written down as April,
Okay.
so it should be March.
11th March.
11th.
Just lose the number. I'm not sure what the Thursday is. Just say March standing committees.
7th of March. Yep. Sorry,
7th of
Councillor
March,
Chowdhury.
yeah.
So 7th of March.
7th of March.
If you're still comfortable moving that.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Well picked up, Ms. CEO. So happy with the seconder? Good. So discussion or debate. Sorry, you wish to speak to that now that you've got a different date in there?
No, all good. It just,
thank you.
there was some error need to be amendments, so we'll discuss that on to Corporate Service Committee meeting. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'll speak in favour of it. Obviously, I think these reports that we get are really good, and it's very good to have a whole lot of figures, absolute figures and comparative figures. I go through them and I do pick out quite a lot of interesting things there. And it's just important that we get the figures absolutely right. And if that's the opportunity to, by just deferring it for a month, to get another report with the figures absolutely correct, I think that'll be a month well spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other discussion, questions or debate, councillors? No? Okay, thank you. I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is notice of motion, CCL 24/12, Cameron Park Toilets. Councillor Ivey, you should move your motion.
Yes?
Yep.
Speak to it?
Well, move it first. We'll get it seconded. Yep.
Yeah, I'll move the motion that the CEO provide a report to council as part of the budget development process on the options to provide more toilet amenities to Cameron Park in the Cameron Park precinct. That this report also include evidence as to the current constraints for use.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Ivey, you should speak to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, look, the Wellington toilet facilities within Cameron Park are really substandard that we've got there. We basically have two single cubicles, one male, one female, and a disabled toilet. And this is in a park where it's nothing to see one or even two tourist buses pull up to have morning tea, to perhaps visit have a wander through the park, get some exercise, even take the dog for exercise over at Pioneer Park and come back into Cameron Park. And the toilet facilities there just are substandard in the sense that they're inadequate to cater for the numbers of people that go into the Cameron Park. We had the instance on Australia Day, on the eve of Australia Day, where we had perhaps 250, 350 people there. There are just not the sufficient toilets to cater. We have the toilets there, the public toilets. We also have toilets within the cafe. We have toilets within the library, and we also have toilets at Pioneer Park that can be accessed by the pedestrian bridge. So what I would like in this report is for the CEO to come back to council with what the options might be to improve the toilet facilities. I don't think we necessarily need a new block. I don't think we need to demolish anything else. I don't know, but we just need to be able to ensure that there are more toilets in Cameron Park than two individual separate cubicles. I know, and I think Cameron Park, I know when I first moved to Wellington 30 or 40 years ago, and I'd meet people in Sydney or whatever, and they'd say, "Oh, Wellington, that's the place with that beautiful park." No one has said that to me in the last 20 years. You know, the whole park is just not to a standard that befits the advantages of Wellington. And I think the toilet facilities are just one part there that we need to improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other? Councillor Goff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just was wondering, I don't know if this is an amendment or just a comment, but can we also address the change facilities for babies? What do you suggest?
So that I would-
Currently at Cameron Park, if you want to use a change table, it's in the disabled toilet and not all mothers have the key.
So in terms of that report, I'd ask the CEO whether the wording of that is enough to look at. I mean, I know Councillor Ivey's intention was to gain the ability for more people to go to the toilet. So whether or not the wording in that is flexible enough to allow that to be investigated further.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think by the word of toilet amenities, that's broad enough to capture that, and I'll take that down as well. So I'm comfortable it's covered.
So thank you. And talk to it more if you wish now, just to cement it in the CEO's mind that it's the importance of that.
It's really important we have somewhere to change our babies.
Thank you. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Yes, thank you. Having used Cameron Park a few times lately on my travels, I've made a point of actually calling in and using the facilities there to check them out after I've heard some discussion and seen some comments on Facebook and things like that. The toilets are pretty good, but I don't think this motion will capture the actual data on the usage figures of the toilets there. We've heard that on Australia Day you had to line up for the toilets, but it's a bit like everyone goes to the Melbourne Cup at Flemington Racecourse the first Tuesday in November. They all want to go home at the same time. We don't build a 10-lane highway for all of that traffic for one afternoon a year. So I'd be keen to just see some of the data on the usage numbers of those actual toilets. These buses that stop there, I don't know if they're CountryLink ones or what. Not sure who stops there on the buses, so I don't know if that'll be captured in a report, but it would be good to actually see the usage figures before we're asked to, on the toilets, before we're asked to sort of put our hand in our pocket for more money or whatever. Thank you.
So I just asked that. I hope by usage figures, we don't presumably have cameras on the toilets and we don't presumably have door counters on the toilets at the moment. Is there any way we would capture usage figures? And probably the tricky part of that would be it's more capturing the usage figures of people that are lined up there. So I'm not sure if we've got anything that captures that at the moment, CEO.
No, but I think to the core of Councillor Black's the question, I'm comfortable that the item 2 in the notice of motion includes evidence as to the current constraints of use. Necessarily, you're looking at queues and usage and that way. So I'm comfortable that that is broad enough to capture that concern. So that's the data we would need to provide the evidence to current constraints.
CEO, Councillor Black, further on that?
No, that's all. Thanks. But yes, I am very keen on the data. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Black. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think it is about, as Councillor Black indicated, the buses, but that pull up there regularly, but family events and community events and market days and council events that we host there as well, and just general busy days in the Wellington town itself. So, obviously, this is a perfect example of building something that was nice and flash at the time, but reduced the amenity of the particular facility that was there. If we look at recent council toilet construction, obviously the one at the top of everyone's head is the one in West Dubbo, built under a budget that was allocated, providing more amenity and actually improved amenity through disability access than what was there before for a budget that was allowed. So sometimes it's not all about looking a bit flash and new and shiny. It's about building it within budget, and providing the same level or better amenity that was there. And this one's been a bit of a letdown, and it's been a letdown since it was actually built, from what I'm understanding. So,
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to briefly support Jess's call to ensure that that we capture that mums and bubs are picked up in the change table area. It's really important that mums can have a safe, clean environment when they're changing their babies. And if it's in a disability toilet that they don't have a key to, then they're going to have to throw a blanket on the ground and change it there. Now, some of us did that in our day, but that's not what we should be doing these days. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Further discussion or debate, councillors? No. Councillor Ivy, you should have a right of reply to anything that was said in the debate.
No, thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Have that before us. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/13, Council Pool Private Management Contract Advice, options to deprivatise pool management. Councillor Black.
Yes, thank you. The recommendation is, when this turns around, it reads as such, that in light of service, communication, labour and other operational problems with the management of the DRC Aquatic Leisure Centres, pools, the CEO seek urgent advice on whether the privatised management contract has been complied with by the operator, on whether the management of the three council pools can be brought back in-house in a way that ensures the facilities are properly available to the community, and an outline of the cost of exiting the private management contract, and provide a report back to council at the March ordinary council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Black, you wish to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. So this is in response to a lot of community concern out there on the way that the pools have been run over the last number of months of this season with the privatised pool management contract. This is calling for a report. It's not calling for drastic action. A lot of people want to know that councillors are taking the issues seriously, the concerns, and that we are looking at what is going on, what can be done, where we can go as a council to improve the level of service. That could come under a whole range of different things that this report would cover, but we need to be seen to be looking at what are the best things for the community, how we can deliver the service best, however that might look. So this, the report that would come out of this contract would have a whole heap of list of recommendations there, and we could have a better insight into what is actually going on at the pools. That would go a long way to showing the community that we do take this issue seriously, that we are looking at what's going on, and that we are engaged. There's been a whole list of concerns. Everyone's seen Facebook, everyone talks to people all around town, whether it's the slide not being open when it's been booked, the pool at the bottom not being filled, communication problems, just about everyone will say about all the communication problems, schools getting risk assessments for their carnivals. There's been another issue that people have raised with me, so I'm keen to see that something's done. I'm keen to see that the community see that we are taking this issue seriously, and that they can have confidence that we're looking to make the pool better, the free pools, and the level of service to be improved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to support this motion, and purely because I too, like all councillors, have had a great deal of complaints and concerns and questions from the community around it. So if this report just gives us enough data and evidence and gives the community some confidence that we are looking into things to make the pool access better for our patrons across all three community areas, I think that's a good option to go with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Other speakers? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I too echo Councillor Wells and Councillor Black's sentiments there. There is a lot of community concern about the particular facility, so look, I'm interested to see the report. I guess one thing I would highlight is that we are 5 months into a 5-year contract with a couple of year options to renew, so potentially 7 years. So it is very early days with respect to Belgravia's management here. In this report, I'd love to see some of the data with respect to the amount of staff they had to take on and train and have up and running and ready when they did kick off the season there. I think it was on the 2nd of September. They had a relatively short window of time, I understand. I think it's about 78 staff, which a large number of them, well, all of them, bar one or two, were new, I think. So there was certainly some challenges there that could be justified. But certainly, look, I'm keen to see the report and at least, again, community, their concerns aren't falling on deaf ears. Councillors are aware of some of those issues. My understanding is they are being addressed, but this will put it out in public as well.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Mann.
Thank you. Yeah, I do like the concept of getting the information out there to show that we are taking the issues seriously. I thoroughly support Councillor Wright's comments around we're very early days here. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think this report will give us a bit more in-depth look at what's happening, but also show us the way forward. We picked a strategy. It's only 12 months ago that we went for privatisation, and in my mind, it's way too early that we should be trying to put that out the door. But we do need to get the best performance out of our contractors in the place. The complaints registers, etc., etc. I know that they're online. I don't particularly use Facebook as a survey tool for myself. There's a lot of vitriol out there. I think if we get the data, the facts, and see what they've done, see the improvements, and stick to our path, but I will support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Ivey.
I will not support the motion, only for the reason that I think the talk of withdrawing or cancelling the privatisation contract and withdrawing the management of the pool from Belgravia, I think is well and truly premature. Look, as I think most councillors would know, I have been very critical of the management of the pool. I think there have been problems there which had to be addressed. I think that they probably have fallen short in some cases. But to have a motion there that says we are going to look at options to withdraw the pool from that management agreement, I think it would be very detrimental to the council. We debated this fully 12 months ago. We embarked upon a strategy. I think there's no evidence that that strategy was wrong. There have been issues which probably could have been done better. And that as I say, to have the second part of that motion calling for looking at the options for withdrawing and trying to put a cost on it sends all the wrong messages to the community, and it sends the wrong messages from the competency of this council. I would like to see, and in fact I would foreshadow that if this motion is defeated, I would foreshadow a replacement motion that says, if I could just read it, the first section is the same as Councillor Black's motion, that in the light of service, communication, labour and other operational problems with the management of the DRC aquatic leisure centres, the CEO, 1, provide a report on whether the privatised management contract has been complied with. 2, provide a report to Council which reviews the major issues experienced during the past swimming season, the remedial actions taken and the measures Belgravia have put in place to ensure to minimise the likelihood of them being repeated in future. So I would propose that as an alternative motion, or as a replacement motion if this one is defeated.
Thank you. Just to clarify there, Councillor Ivey, so as you obviously understand, I wouldn't accept that as an amendment because it's basically removing part of that, but you're quite correct. If councillors want to get that motion up, they would need to defeat this motion, and then Councillor Ivey would move that motion, and then you could vote on that motion. Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other speakers? Councillor Showery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really support Councillor Black motion because I think the data is really important. This report is really important to show community like we are really care their concern. But through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Like there is a lot of complaints relation to this pool. So I know there was a director is having regular meeting with the Belgravia. So how these complaints been handling? Is that been these complaints been identified, and what Belgravia is how Belgravia is addressing these complaints? Thank you.
Thank you. So just want to focus on the complaints, the complaint handling process.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Thank you. So to Mr. CEO.
Yeah, I'll just add a quick comment before I pass to the relevant director, being Mr. Arms. Just rest assured, I hear some of council's commentary around we want to show we're actively managing. Staff are actively managing the performance of the contract, so please be rest assured in this forum, and as you know from weekly updates we've provided, staff are actively managing and engaging with Belgravia about service delivery in accordance with the contract. But I'll throw to Councillor Arms, sorry, Craig, or councillors, one of the two. Mr. Arms for comment.
Thank you, CEO. As you correctly say, yes, we are actively managing the contract and working closely with Belgravia for the 3 aquatic centres that we're running. So we have weekly operational meetings with the area manager and the regional manager, and at times the state operations manager when she's able to join. And I'm at most of those meetings, as well as the manager recreation and open space, and he's offsider as well. And we've found Belgravia to be very professional, very open, very willing to hear comments from us, and very willing to accept levels of service and how they're performing in regards to that. And by their own admission, they haven't reached the mark that they're satisfied with, but we're confident that they're working very hard to address those. By their own, we also do spot checks per week at the 2 main centres, especially Dubbo and Wellington, and Geary to a lesser extent. And that's just spot checking, making sure that some key observations are meeting standard as well, and they're responding to those as well, and being very open to that. Their own MPS tracking system, which enables people to make comment and pass on their judgment. They're tracking that, and over the course of the last month, there's been a significant uptick in those results. So I think momentum is starting to gather there. But again, they're still open to hearing from us from an operational perspective.
And sorry, just for clarification there, NPS would be Net Promoter Score, which is an internationally recognised system for customer feedback. And can I just add the one item there from, I'm kind of paraphrasing something you've said there, Councillor Sherry, but in terms of those meetings, the contract, as far as council staff is concerned, has been complied with at this stage. There's no breach of the contract per se.
No significant breach worthy of contract termination, no. So certainly with regards to the Wellington safety incident, there was some time frame issues there, but we openly discussed that, and we briefed council prior as part of our hot topics system. That was covered in their report and also in ours, and they've got some actions to cover off on those. But overall, they're certainly, after that incident, they have certainly responded, and their performance has increased considerably, particularly their communications. It's really quite excellent now. And so, no, there's been no significant contract breaches to this point.
Thank you, Mr. Arms. Any further, Councillor Showery, from there? No, thank you. Other questions or debate, councillors? So just a minor one from me. I can't support it only for the reasons that we're asking questions that we already know the answers to. There's 3 questions essentially asked in the motion. Has the contract been complied with? Well, we know the answer is yes. Could it be brought back in-house? We know the answer is yes. And what's the cost of exiting the contract? We know there's over 4 years left on the contract at about 1.4 million, so maybe 5.6 million or thereabouts as a minimum cost. So we already know those 3 answers, so I don't know why we'd waste our staff time in going and doing a report where we've already got all the answers to it. So that's only my brief comments there. So no further comments or questions. Councillor Black, right of reply.
Yes, thank you very much. I realise, Mr Mayor, that you're very invested in the whole privatisation of the pool management. As a bit of a driving force, I'd say, behind that. But really,
So sorry, Councillor Black, just remember it's only comments. Your right of reply is specifically on comments that are made around the table by councillors to respond to those specific comments as a right of reply.
What I was I out of order?
I said nothing about privatisation agendas. I merely commented on the 3 components in that motion and commented on those 3. So there was nothing in my comments about a privatisation agenda.
Belgrave, you really need to shape up. We've heard about the Wellington pool incident. That reflects extremely badly on us, all of us as councillors, because when things are going wrong at the pool, like that Wellington chemical spill incident, it was closed and closed and closed, and all these swimming classes were being cancelled for the school kids, we all get the blame. Even people who didn't support the privatisation, it's detrimental to how we look as to how this management company that's getting paid a lot of money is running it. These problems have been ongoing for 5 months. We've heard about the staffing issues. One of the councillors mentioned the staffing issues there. We've heard time and time again from the Mayor in his public statements on how they can fly in a workforce. Well, we're still seeing staffing shortages. Something has to change. They really do need to get it right and hurry up about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. So we've got that before us now. I'll ask all those in favour. All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Move on to the next item, CCL 24/14. Sorry, Ms. Rouse, you got the three there? Okay. 7-3, sorry. Yep, okay. Next item, CCL 24/14, Councillor Black.
Thank you. My motion says, 1, that, just as many other councils have done, Dubbo Regional Council develops a public toilet policy/strategy for adoption. 2, that the CEO provide a report to council with a draft policy addressing the areas that the policy would cover, such as to be broad and include those to do with the provision of toilets, design, style, fitting out, and all other associated categories as per similar policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Can I have someone second that, please? Seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Thank you. Councillor Black, you wish to speak to your motion?
Would love to, thank you. Many councils around Australia have public toilet strategies and public toilet policies to do with the provision, the design, the size, the layout of public toilets. We all know that everyone needs to go to the toilet at some stage. There's never enough public toilets. I don't see why we wouldn't have a public toilet policy. Having read a lot of them lately, be a really good document that we could have as a guiding force on council, so that we have some sort of a document that the public can have confidence that we are following a whole transparent process. And really, we've got a few public toilets going to be built in the next couple of years. Toilets always need renewing and replacing. When reading a lot of these public toilet strategies, one of the things that pops out all the time is councils who have done surveys of what sort of style people want. Women overwhelmingly say they want the single-use toilets, single cubicle toilets. That was something that popped out, not so much from the men in that category, but we could effectively have a policy that guides us as we renew and replace toilets around the LGA, whether it be the cemetery, Victoria Park, Wellington Cemetery, wherever else we're going to get some toilets, that is transparent, that is out there in the public, that people can have input into, and that we have, say, all the different regional parks, or regional park, local park, etc., classified. People know what sort of toilet is going to go in there, what size of toilet. I'm sure that if Dubbo Regional Council had a public toilet strategy, then where Councillor Ivey was previously talking about the inadequacy of toilets in Cameron Park, that wouldn't have occurred. There would have been an actual proper policy that said this park has this much usage, we need this many toilets. And quite frankly, there's not enough toilets there, which is interesting because I've been going around to lots of public toilet block openings all over the state at the moment, and you often see for about $170,000 a 2 female, 2 male and a unisex disabled toilet built for about 170 grand. So I don't want to see any more incidents like Cameron Park not having enough facilities, and a public toilet policy would really make sure that that doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, Councillor Black, he's raised an interesting item here, and and I guess I've sort of done a bit of digging myself as well, and just with respect to all of the places that have public toilets, I could only find 2 in New South Wales actually, that public toilet strategies. I couldn't find one for Tamworth, Orange, Bathurst, Wagga, Armidale, Parks or Forbes. Albury had one actually, and the City of Sydney had one, but I couldn't find any in New South Wales. But I could find a number in Victoria, and I could find a number in South Australia, and digging a bit deeper, I believe that actually may be legislated that councils in those states have some sort of public toilet strategy. I don't know that. I'll have to dig a bit deeper, but coincidental that the Victoria has a lot. Obviously, it's gained a rather bit of traction because our local MLC, Mr. Stephen Lawrence, back on the 20th of November, spent 5 minutes of his speech to Parliament advocating that I think his comments were that there's a lack of policy and legislation for the proper provision and design of public toilets across the state. And on that basis, I'd probably see it as a state government issue that I'm not sure that this council or another, I'm sure Mr. Mayor can tell me how many councils there are in New South Wales, should be wasting their time and energy on developing a public toilet strategy, which could be a blanket type approach across all sorts of LGAs across the state. I guess the other concern I've got with this as well is that we're talking about public toilets that range from, I've had a bit of a look at what's coming up over the next couple of years, and I think we've got one at Butlers Falls, which is in effect a bush toilet, and another one at Vic Park, which, if we're talking toilets, might be the Royal Throne, but and there's everything in between, and I think it'd be really hard to develop an extremely broad policy on what sort of toilets we need to have at different locations. And even if we did, we've already seen over at Lions Park over there where a facility was actually built, that everyone has their own opinion on what should be where and what shouldn't be where. And irrespective of any policy, we're not going to please the masses. That's just typically the way it is. Even so, we talk about these single-use cubicles, and I've anecdotally spoken to a lot of females who like the idea of single-use cubicles, but they're not going to share the same single-use cubicle with the opposite sex. So, but yet I'm also hearing on the other side we should have shared cubicles where they have single-use but shared amongst all different sexes. So I really can't see that a policy like this is going to solve a lot of issues. Certainly, though, with something as important as Victoria Park that's coming up and the renewal of that asset, does need to have a level of community consultation. I'm curious to see how that unfolds. I also believe that this council at the moment has a significant amount of work on a lot of other projects, and the development of a big document. This will require a stack of community consultation and a lot of staff time. I think there's some more pressing projects that need to be undertaken before this council delivers a public toilet strategy. I do note that Councillor Black didn't put a date on there, but I would think that if that is adopted, it'd be something we would look at well into the future and doesn't represent top priority for me as a councillor. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright, and I had Councillor Ivey.
Yes, I'd just reiterate some of Councillor Wright's comments, mainly that a policy like this, where we're talking about, was really a public health issue, surely is the responsibility of the state government. So I'd look for them to introduce some guidelines that we can then adopt or modify if appropriate. But certainly the initiative should come from the state government.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wells.
If I could ask a question, please. What do we currently do when we're looking to build or establish a toilet in a particular, or replace in a particular area? What are our current, I suppose, rules of thumb or processes? Is that possible?
Yep, good question, Councillor Wells. Mr. CEO?
Yep, and I'll just make some comments and throw to Mr. Arms as relevant director. So certainly there's Australian standards, there's the bread and butter stuff that you have to do for public amenities. So there's that element in terms of design, and then it's considering against the I guess the ranking of our parks or the type of facility we're building. But I'll throw to Mr. Arms for further comment.
Indeed, they're important elements, Mr. CEO and councillors. It's priority based. The design of the toilets reflect the demand upon them in the location in which they are positioned. There's a principle of safety by design. We're actually, staff are actually attending a local government department or local government run course in a couple of months' time called Safety by Design for Women and Girls. That's what it's called. And it's about the location and the positioning of toilets in public spaces, as well as the design of those themselves. So we're quite interested in learning more about this ourselves. We actually learnt that from the Gunnedah crime prevention and community safety conference that we attended back in November. It was really quite an interesting part of that conference. So we're interested in learning and improving our performance in that regard as well. But primarily, it's about what is the status of the park, what does it need, what location opportunities does it present to us, but also community consultation and community engagement is a very important part of everything we do in that space. It's an important part of everything we do, full stop, but certainly the provision of public amenities is a big component of that. The Victoria Park toilet facility is, we're moving into that space. We're about to hit go on that, and the community engagement will be a major component of that.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. CEO.
And just to add, and councillors, you would know as part of your brief to me when you first were elected was about getting better at community engagement and consultation, and that you would know the step change we've made with your say in the division led by Natasha to make sure community input is a key part of all those decisions as well. So that's been a step change if you compare, well, just because it's topical, the Cameron Park solution versus what we're going to do for Victoria Park as very similar parks and similar functions as well.
Thanks, CEO. So that was a question, Councillor Wells, so you can continue on with debate if you wish.
Just in response, to, I suppose, to that information, that was great. I would probably say that the comment around the need to have the engagement from the women and girls is really important, but I think all genders need to be a part of our, safety concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Further discussion, Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not echoing my fellow Councillor Wright and Councillor Ivy, because not many New South Wales council at this moment doing this policy. So I have a question through you, Mr. Mayor. Like, is there any estimated cost to do this sort of policy? Like, how much a council could cost?
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Mr. CEO.
I'd have to take the actual cost figure on notice. It's as councils have described, it's a very broad policy because it's looking at council facilities, not just open space of where we have public toilets for servicing community need. So it will be a broad brush facility. I'll be taking a person offline. Mr. Arms, an estimate in terms of that type of policy setting, because you want it to be, licensing wants a policy that doesn't quite hit the mark or makes it clunkier for us to deliver community service. So you want it to be fair income and a lot of community consultation, but indicative time for a staff member, Mr. Arms?
We've had a look at a couple. We've did a Google search as well. Wingy Carriby is one that we have a look at. I've personally had a look at. That's a New South Wales one. There is another one in Sydney, but I couldn't find many more myself. That one looked quite in depth. It really did go through all of their facilities and did like an asset rating. It was like an asset management strategy as much as a public toilet strategy. And I think that would primarily be what it is what have we got? What's the lifespan of what we've got? What is it going to cost to replace that? What will we replace it with? Where facilities needed that we don't have, what would we put there, etc., etc. I would think that would take some time. Well, we've got talented staff, and they're working on different things at the moment. So it's a matter. Everything comes at an opportunity cost as well as financial. How much? How long will it take? Difficult. I would say some number of months to do it well. Is that good enough?
That was an excellent dance around not giving an answer, Mr. Arms. So probably not a great answer in terms of an exact amount, Councillor Chowdhury, but if I paraphrase 15 minutes of discussion from Mr. Arms there, I'd say it's probably 3 months worth of work, someone focused on that, if that sounds approximate there, yeah. And the Wingy Carriby one, which I've just looked up while you're speaking then, so 47 pages long. So obviously your staff to do a 47-page report, it's not a 5-minute process. It's at least a 3-month process, if you like, there, Councillor Chowdhury. So hopefully that's enough information. So you've asked a question, so you can continue on with debate if you wish.
No, I just make a comment, and then I think I'll not put my support in this notice of motion because I know our MLC Stephen Lawrence is very passionate about this toilet policy, so he can take it to the state and get some money from the state to do this unified policy through New South Wales. And I'll encourage my fellow councillor to advocate that one through Stephen Lawrence and not putting any extra burden to the ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Other discussion or debate, councillors? For my comments, I'm agreeing with councillors Wright, Ivy and Chowdhury that it's an extra expense that we don't really need, and the state government, again, seems like it's something that would be important across the 128 councils across the entire state. So that would make more sense than each little council, and there's only a couple of examples we found there, actually doing the toilet policy. I suppose the other part is we haven't got a lot of toilets coming up, and each one would be essentially have some form of design, or as Councillor Wells said, you do some designing around each individual toilet there. So that makes more sense rather than an overarching policy. So Councillor Black, right of reply. Remember, to observations that are made during the debate, not a closing statement as such. It's only to observations made during the debate.
Thank you. I'll go to your one there first, Mr Mayor. You said a few little councils. The City of Sydney isn't a little council. If the City of Sydney can have their own toilet policy, then I'm sure that Dubbo can. As for we're mature enough as a council. Most of the work, I feel, would be copying other councils' public toilet strategies and public toilet policies. And that seems to have been what most other councils have done, just adopt and modify. That was a term that was used during the debate. As for not many councils in New South Wales having toilet policies, people in Dubbo go to the toilet the same as people in all the other states of Australia. Okay, so we should have a policy to make sure we don't have debacles like the Wellington Cameron Park toilet where there wasn't enough, or what many people consider a debacle, the 3D toilet over in West Dubbo. It's not difficult, Councillor Wright, it's not difficult for council to just copy policies. I'm sure that happens a fair bit throughout councils. We've heard how they share a lot of information. If we wait around for a state government to do something, we will never get the best practice provision of public toilets through a bespoke Dubbo Regional Council toilet policy. So if you're happy with that, that's great. But I'd like to see what's the best way that we can provide public toilets across the Dubbo LGA. How can we do it better? Where do we fall down, etc. Each toilet, as for comments there about it's basically like a cookie cutter cut and paste approach, all the public toilet policies that I've had a look through, none of them are like that. They give guidelines and then you adopt that to your specific toilet. So that was a fallacy, a little one, but one nonetheless. So that'll probably do me, but I would ask the Mayor and his what I consider team to support this policy, which would be a good public policy in the best interests of ratepayers, and vote for a public toilet policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. We have that before us now, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that lost. I just want to make sure, Ms Rouse, you've got... Okay, thank you. Okay, moving to the next item, CCL 24/15, December 2023 Quarterly Budget Review Statement. So I'll move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Goff, and seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright.
A question, Mr Mayor, thanks. Just on page 130 of that report, second last paragraph, suggests it's come to light since the December quarter review cut-off, there's a potential for additional vehicle maintenance expenditure costs in relation to RFS vehicles. Any indication on what sort of dollars we might be looking at there?
Thanks, Councillor Wright. Mr CEO.
Yeah, it's still a topic of discussion, but it's indicative around between $100,000 and $160,000 above. Normally, RFS expenditure is an in. We get money in, and then we deliver the service to the RFS. So it's around 100, 160 grand above what the in is, shall we say. So they're requesting that we fund that. Still a topic of discussion. Haven't agreed to anything just yet.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillor Wright.
Thank you. And just following on from that, that money, obviously we said grant money, goes back to RFS to be spent on assets such as?
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Mr CEO.
Through Mr Mayor, if they're fleet items, so it's effectively their plant and what have you. The buildings isn't part of this yet, we don't believe. It's not, as you may recall from other projects that have come before you. That is an in and out, is discrete, as a construction project, for example. This is about maintenance of their fleet, typically.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Wright?
So just getting some clarity here. So fleet items, so vehicles that we have no say in procurement, we have no say in the purchase, we don't own them as such, but we maintain them, cover the costs of maintenance. That's a question, and we carry the liability of the depreciation of those particular assets on our financial statements as well.
Can you stop talking, please, Councillor Wright, because it's getting worse each time you talk. Mr. CEO.
So yes, it's a fleet. We have no role in procurement, no role in operational management. They are on our books as an asset that we depreciate. So that is a cost in our financial accounts in the system, but we have no element of control whatsoever, and we're getting hit with the bill for that privilege.
And sorry, and further that, no even say on how the maintenance is done, who does the maintenance, not any say in that process there?
No, we do provide fleet, so that's sometimes our mechanics. Now, at the moment, we don't have mechanics, thanks to a large rail maintenance facility that is offering a good opportunity for careers for mechanics, it would seem. And so we're having to bring in extra mechanics at a higher cost than a wage rate, and that would appear to be part of where they're wanting to not get let passed on. But it's an outgoing cost. We have no control over it. It's their fleet.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Further, Councillor Wright?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think everything that the CEO said is everything that I thought was the truth. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey?
Just a couple of other questions. So what this is a legacy from way back, is it? It seems a bit anomalous. And the other thing is, the second part of the question is that, is this sort of a quasi-emergency services levy, is it? Is that really, I mean, aren't we already contributing to that through the ESL? And is there any, and if that's right, is there any move to try to cut the nexus?
So cost shifting, I think was the term you're looking for, Councillor Ivey.
No, it's just, well, we get hit for the, call it that if you like, but it's emergency services levy that we pay, and this seems to be along a similar line. Is there any move to at least try to get that this with the RFS abolished?
Happy to go through, Mr. CEO. Happy to talk about it as well, but I'll let you go first.
Certainly, it's a topic of conversation just recently at the meeting of the CEO General Managers of the Western Alliance of Councils, where other councils have similarly. They raised it that they've got a similar bill that's been put in front of them. It is on top of, as to your point, it is on top of the emergency services levy. Like it's an operational cost, not sort of a strategic build your budget, here's your annual bill for the emergency services levy. So yeah, it's certainly an increased cost that we can't control. And there is that argument about Red Fleet. So was it 20 odd councils? We've seen a report that refused to put them on their books, and they have received a qualified audit from the audit office. They played hardball. The other audit office played hardball with them. So there is a push. So say likelihood of success would require legislative change, and it is a very old piece of legislation relationship between the RFS and local councils compared to what the RFS is now compared to, say, 30 years ago, Mr. Mayor.
And certainly further to that, the CEO mentioned Western Alliance, Councillor Ivey. It's also been a topic of discussion at country mayors, been a topic of discussion at regional cities in New South Wales. So no council I know thinks this is a good idea or is logical or sensible, but exactly as the CEO said, we don't ultimately control it, and we can refuse to put it on our books, but then you start to push up against the state government who says, I'm sorry, we've told you to put it on your books. So it is a problem. Further, Councillor Ivey?
No, thank you.
Okay, other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Goff, you have a right of reply if you wish to use it.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, we have that before us. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, councillors, is CCL 24/16 2024 Wellington Vintage Fair. Councillor Mann, you're moving that. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wells. Councillor Mann, do you wish to speak to that?
No need, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Endorsed by the Traffic Committee.
Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/17 2024 Anzac Day ceremonies. Again, Councillor Mann. You're moving that. I assume. Yep, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wells. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 24/18, amendments to the Renewable Energy Benefit Framework. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Goff, seconded by Councillor Burns. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Other speakers, Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just raised the issue within the recommendation where it says that for battery energy storage systems, the best systems, that the funding target that we're asking the proponents to contribute is 0.5% of capital investment value if that payment is made up front or at the commencement of the development, or as an alternative, 0.75% of the capital investment value paid and by way of annual instalments over the life of the project, where that annual instalment is indexed to inflation. So that second option of 0.75% paid annually indexed is actually economically far more attractive than 0.5% paid up front. And I'll support this motion, but I am unhappy with the option of giving the proponent giving them the option to pay 0.5%, which is a lesser amount than the annual payments. And I think again we should. I know that that we've had difficulty getting the proponents even up towards 0.5%, and that it's not mandatory. We are relying on their goodwill to do that. But I just point out again that that these amounts that they are paying the community as an offset to this community facilitating the whole push for renewables is just, I don't think it's enough. I mean, even, and I happen to know how much one of the landowners was paid for his 10 acres to have this battery storage put on there. It's just out of proportion to the actual land value. It's way off the Richter scale. And I don't blame the landowner for getting it. I think good luck to him. But, you know, the only reason the landowner is able to be paid that amount of money is because the state and federal governments are pushing renewables in this area. They are saying, as for a nation, for a state, to save the planet, we want to push renewables. And it's being structured so that some of the people facilitating that renewable development are getting an enormous windfall. And they're getting a windfall on the basis of this government policy. The government policy, I believe, is letting the communities down by not either mandating or at least encouraging some reasonable, sensible amount of funding to be paid to the community. It is the community who are really bearing the brunt of the renewable development, and I think that the community is being shortchanged.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other questions or debate? Councillor Black.
The New South Wales government really needs to come to the table here and legislate proper community contributions from especially solar farms, but also battery operators, and they could even probably put up the rate there of funding from wind farms from more than 1.5%, probably 2 or 2.5 would be a much better amount, considering what the communities in those areas are going to have around them for the next 30 years or so. So the more money that could be coming from these mostly huge multinational companies back into the local council and the local immediately affected community would be much appreciated, and it needs to come from the state government. We obviously, there's no holding renewables back, everyone knows that. Just look at all the people who are investing into renewables, but we need more coming back into the local communities and the local councils. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I certainly echo Councillor Black's comments there with respect to that, and even the comments of Councillor Ivey there that the communities are being shortchanged here. I did want to commend the team on the work that they've done with a lot of these voluntary planning agreements, my understanding is that that this council is breaking some pretty new ground, and certainly this state government's actually leaving all the hard work up to local councils to fight their own fight, which is totally unfair on the basis of the push for renewables. But I did have a question though with respect to the battery energy storage systems. Obviously, we've got some percentages there. We're talking about capital investment values. How much support are we getting from the state government with respect to the push to involve battery energy storage systems in this this same VPA?
Zero. There we Exactly as Councillor Black said, there's no support from the state government for any legislative processes for wind or solar or battery to have any VPA coming back, any amounts coming back to the community. And so I think it is incredibly unfair on councils, and we're just one of them. We've got 37 projects potentially going ahead in this area, and that means potentially we've got to try and have 37 discussions, negotiations, and it was already mentioned that we are breaking ground, this council, to try and get some of those, but it would make a lot more sense if the state or the federal government, probably the federal, to do an overarching policy across the nation, said there was a compulsory amount. But no, there is no support from the state government whatsoever for any support in terms of battery storage systems, and we're really left on our own for all of those. I'm not even sure there's much support, Mr. CEO, in terms of wind. They're quite happy we're getting 1.5%. That's groundbreaking, get 1.5%, but I don't know we would call it support from the state government. I think they're just saying good work, but they're not actually supporting us from a legislative process.
Certainly, Mr. Wallace might provide an answer, but certainly they thought that was optimistic back in the day, and I guess they adjusted the guidelines for planning agreements based on a megawatt hour, but they changed it significantly from what it was once we said you're about to undermine our 1.5% that we're having good success with. But I'll throw to Mr. Wallace for further information.
To you, Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, and I'd probably start by endorsing Mr. Mayor's comments. There is zero support for any sort of payment to a council as part of a planning agreement for battery energy storage system. So that's locked in, and we've had conversations at high levels with the Department of Planning over long periods of time, and the situation, I think, is the department's view on that, who are happy to consider it, but they just cannot see the actual impact of a small footprint battery energy storage system as compared to a large footprint solar or a very large visual impact wind farm. So, I think what they're missing, and the position that council's taking, and especially Councillor Ivey has been certainly beating the drum on, is that social licence. So if the community is being host to a very significant amount of cumulative impacts of these types of developments, that overall there should be some social licence that goes with that, and I think that's what the department's missing, and that is best reflected, I think, in the draft Department of Planning and Environment Energy Policy Framework, whereby they actually do not discuss, and there is no requirement for any sort of contribution from battery energy storage systems. So in that regard, as the CEO is indicating, yes, over time the team, and hats off to Manager of Growth Planning for pushing this over a period of time, have pushed that envelope from back in the day, Badengra's agreement through to Yungala's, which was about just over 1%, through to now we're at 1.5%. And certainly across the state, we're being told by renewable energy developers that councillors are pointing towards Dubbo Regional Council as being the gold standard that they want to achieve. So hats off to the team. What the team are saying, however, is that 0.5% capital investment value planning agreement figure is really what we're hearing as the current best figure that we feel we can negotiate to. That's staff's recommendation to councillors, but certainly what council recommend and adopt at the final throw of the dice will be what staff implement.
So hopefully that was a long enough answer to your question, Councillor Wright. Any further from you, Councillor Wright?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, Councillor Goff, you have a right of reply if you wish to exercise that.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have that before us, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/19 planning proposal for minimum lot sized area amendments at 20L Rocky Road. Councillor, move that please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Seconded by Councillor Wells. Councillor Black.
Thank you. I'm going to declare a pecuniary interest and leave the room for this matter, CCL 24/19, because I own a block of land on Warrie Road and Old Dubbo Road near the subject holding, and in order to maintain public confidence, I'll leave the room while the matter is considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Okay, Councillor Showry, you should speak to that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's fairly explained to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Showry. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Could we have Councillor Black brought back in, please? Thank you, Councillor Burns, Councillor Black. Next item, CCL 24/20 draft Spicer Creek Wind Farm planning agreement results of public exhibition. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ivey, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Ivey, do you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's obviously a vexed question. The voluntary, the planning agreements. We heard Mr. Martell talking this evening, addressing the public forum about some of the issues which the local community thought were inadequate in relation to the agreement. I thought perhaps some of his comments were maybe a little bit unfair in that there have been meetings, there has been public consultation, there has been opportunities for the locals to make a submission, and by and large, I thought most of those points raised by the local community have been addressed. They have been addressed, either adopted or explained why, in this case, they haven't been adopted. I think, though, this whole issue of community consultation, community involvement, and towards achieving the final decision on where some money is going to be spent once this money starts to flow is going to be, as I say, a very vexed question. I think we're going to have lots of controversy. We're going to have lots of debate. I think it'll be a very challenging role for council to make, to undertake. But look, I think this the planning agreement as put up is good. It's got a couple of clauses in there that says if the community, for whatever reason, feel that the percentage allocation of money isn't right, that it's not correct going forward, there is the opportunity there for that allocation of funds to be reviewed and changed where necessary. There are the issues there that the money is to be spent for the benefit of the local community. I think that'll going to raise a few questions down the track. What is the local community and how does the local community benefit from different alternative investments of those funds? But I think there is a good guideline there. The opportunity for community input will stay. We will have an overarching committee, but I'm sure that that overarching committee will receive and take into account submissions from the local community. I think this planning agreement covers most of those items. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other speakers? Councillor Black.
Thank you. I note that in the submissions here by people, the community out that way, that the Coomabella crossing gets a mention. It is important to note the community out there has been without a proper crossing after it got a bit washed out for some probably 16 months or so now, 15, 16 months. And it would be good for, now it wouldn't be the Spices Creek wind farm proponents, but Squadron, but they're the same mob basically who are doing the another wind farm out that way, that they actually paid for the upgrade to that crossing for a bridge, because they're going to be probably the main beneficiaries in being able to get their wind farm componentry in over the crossing, which is at the moment only cars only, and trucks have to divert via Dubbo. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/21, a recommendation for council on policy setting in relation to overgrown blocks. Councillor Ivey, do you have an alternative motion there to one printed in our business papers?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that a motion that says, 1, that the CEO develop a policy on enforcing compliance of overgrown blocks of private land for council's consideration, and that 2, that the policy enforcement methodology allows for 3 consecutive orders and fines to be issued to achieve compliance before giving consideration to arranging to carry out the work to give effect to the terms of the order and seeking to recover the costs through the court.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Ivey, you should speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that this motion encapsulates what we really need to do in relation to these overgrown blocks. We need to be able to go through the process whereby we try to get the policy enforcement by the statutory methodology, the statutory regulations, whereby we try to force the owners to improve the condition of their land. This motion then allows that if after those 3 enforcement consecutive orders haven't achieved any result, then the council has the option to decide to go in and carry out the work themselves and then try to recover the costs. Now, we realise that recovering the costs will often be difficult. It might even be impossible in some cases. But I still think that council should be given the option of going in and improving the block or getting rid of the overgrown or the unsightliness of it or the health hazard or whatever it is, and then recover the costs if they can. But if they can't, then it still might be worthwhile doing it. It gives the council the option to either incur that cost or not.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you. I will vote for this to get the report, and I'll be interested to see the report when it comes back from the CEO. But I feel that we could be sort of chasing after the wind here and throwing good after bad, in that some of these blocks, the reality of getting any money out of these people via the court process would be probably none and Buckley's. But like I said, I'll vote for it. We'll have a look at the policy when it comes. But in a few years' time, I'd be very interested to see how it goes. I wouldn't be surprised if after 10 years the failed cost recovery is greater than the cost of developing a public toilet policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey, do you want to reply?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment to Councillor Black's there. He's saying that we've probably got none or Buckley's chance of getting the money back, and that's probably right. But this motion gives council the option of whether or not to spend that money, knowing that probably it's not going to recover it, or whether or not, yes, they think there is a good chance of recovering it, and can make a decision whether or not to proceed or not. And I think that's important, that council be given the opportunity to make that decision.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. So we have that before us now. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/22, tree planting opportunities for community groups. Can I have someone move that, please? Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Black. Councillor Chowdhury, you should speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's good to see council is backing some tree planting opportunities, because I think all of the my fellow councillors are very keen to see Dubbo is getting more greener, more like a cooler place, and more livable. I have a question through you, Mr. Mayor. I can through the report I can see only encouraging to tree giving to the only citizenship ceremony. So if there, I know there are other community groups are been involved tree planting. So how they get involved through tree planting opportunities? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Through you, Mr. CEO, to Mr. Arms.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Yes, Dubbo Regional Council is fully committed to tree planting across the city and for improving our canopy cover, but also through its natural area reserves as well. And we have quite an active parks and bush care program, which seeks to support volunteer groups around Dubbo and Wellington, but across the LGA as well. And those groups are able to access support from us for tree planting in appropriate locations with our support now, and have been able to do that for some time, and they are active in doing that as well. So the report talks more about the provision of trees at a ceremony level, such as Australia Day, and setting aside a particular area for where those trees can be planted. So we minimise the opportunity for them to be planted in inappropriate areas where we might have to pay a price at a later date. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Arms. Further, Councillor Showery?
All good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you. I commend Councillor Chowdhury for bringing his notice of motion that led to this report previously. It's always with a note of sadness that I see nice big dead street trees around Dubbo, especially South Dubbo, and it's very rare. I've been watching over many decades now. Very rare that those trees are actually replanted after they will mysteriously die or blow over in storms, as you see up and down Dalton Street at the back of the school there, the primary school. But I know that we put $100,000 extra in the last year into the street tree planting budget. I note that before it was like 660,000 or something like that. And I think that anything we can do to encourage people to plant appropriate street trees out the front of their place and look after them and water them can only be a good thing. So community groups there that were mentioned in the report, things like the river repair bus, I know that cost the council a bit of money, but we did actually have a group going along planting and watering the trees and weeding around them. Anything that we can do to involve the community and do it at a fairly low cost and have our council staff doing other jobs, we should be looking at. But we can't plant enough trees in Dubbo, especially as the climate is changing and warming. And if you plant a tree today, it's not really for you, it's for future generations. So the more trees, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Showery, you have a right of reply if you wish to exercise that. Okay, thank you. We have the motion before us, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 24/23, draft 2023-27 community engagement strategy. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Burns. Councillor Wells, do you wish to speak to that?
Oh, just briefly, Mr. Mayor. It's a fantastic report, and I commend staff and the leading director. I believe was Tash. It's great. It's a good read, and happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/24, Delivery Program and Operational Plan Progress Report. Have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Only to say that there's a lot happening. That's a fantastic document, and absolutely encourage the community to read that just to understand where council's focus is at the moment. But there's a substantial amount of information in there, much like that previous report within community engagement strategy. But yeah, two excellent pieces of work that council's prepared. But yeah, well done to the staff involved. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
I'll just reinforce Councillor Wright's comments and just say, again, a bit of a thought bubble. I think it is this approach and this document is very timely because, as we've talked about tonight with the renewable development and the opportunity there for community involvement and perhaps expenditure of significant funds, having a document like this that helps the whole thing fit into place is absolutely vital. And I know this we're not talking this document is not talking about the period where we're going to be having to look at the spending of those renewable funds, but the prototype or the format of it is exactly what we need.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other discussion or debate, councillors? No. Councillor Wright, you can use your right of reply to anything Councillor Ivey said if you wish.
No, thank you.
Thank you, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/25, audit of signs across the urban areas of the LGA. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge, seconded by Councillor Burns. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you very much. I note with interest some of the numbers and the figures in this report. You've got a whole stack of signs that are in good condition with an old logo or a DRC logo or something like that, or a Wellington Shire Council or a Dubbo City Council or anything like that on the signs. Given the figures in the report of the approximate cost to replace the signage, which might be in good condition but out of date, but not necessarily wrong, I think it'd be a bit of a vanity project to worry about replacing those when we have so many other tasks on our plate as a council. So if I see a Wellington Shire Council sign that's still saying the right thing, I don't think the community really cares too much about what it actually says on the signage. If it's correct and in good condition and conveys the message, it'll just get replaced when it's at the end of its life. As a council, we don't have $1 million to chuck around into a whole stack of new signage where the old signage is effective. It just might have a different logo on it. It's quite ridiculous to suggest that otherwise. I also note in the recommendation here that it says, point 3, that the Chief Executive Officer develop internal policy and guidelines to support standardised signage across the local government area. I won't go into asking how much that will cost, but I will just make the point that every council in New South Wales has signage and a lot of it. Why aren't some people outraged that the state government has not come to the party and had a standardised signage policy and internal policy and guidelines that councils can just pick up off the shelf? And people wanted to say things before, well, what has the local member done in the last 5 years maybe to develop a state policy? Ridiculous, I know, but that's what we get when we want to do those sort of games. So I really do think that this is a bit of a vanity project. If we wanted to change every single sign in the LGA to update it, we just need to do what needs doing as they need doing, and any that are wrong, of course, or missing, replace those. If they're in good condition, leave them. They'll get done eventually. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Black. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
You won't be surprised to know that I agree with about half of what Councillor Black said and disagree about the other half. Because, look, it is important. We are a professional organisation. You know, it is a professional, we've got an obligation to have signs that are accurate, that show that we care, that show that we really are proud of our community. These are public signs. They are out there saying we are representing to the community a particular action, and we don't care if it's wrong. I mean, what sort of attitude is that? That is just wrong. The other thing is, reading through the recommendations, it doesn't go against anything, or Councillor Black doesn't say anything there that's wrong. It says the investment in signage renewal program be considered as part of the budget development process. Well, what can be fairer than that? I mean, that's exactly what we should be doing. This has got some information there that says there are 200 signs in our small little community that are wrong, and we should work towards replacing them. That's exactly what the recommendation says, and I would have thought Councillor Black should be endorsing it completely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other discussion or debate? Councillor Marr.
I just question, through you, Mr Mayor, we're now 2024, which by my maths, I think it's 7 years on from the amalgamation. Is that correct? 8, there you go. So I think we need to keep in mind from what I've read in this report and from what I've seen around town, I don't think there's been too many blows struck between amalgamation and now as far as signage. Maybe Mr CEO could give us, has it just come to a dead stop from amalgamation time to now? Because that's what we seem to be dealing with, is a real backlog.
Happy to go through you, Mr CEO.
Sure. Certainly, initially in the merger, I was 1.0 back at council then, and there was a focus on some of the higher profile signs. But I'd suggest with flooding and other issues, La Nina and blowing apart roads and capital investment on signs, yep, there probably hasn't been a distinct focus on a signage replacement program beyond when you're a newer project. You can update the signs then. So, yep, there's a legacy of signage you still have to replace. An example of that where you have an opportunity is we got grant funding to replace the wayfinding signage around the river. They were all well out of date. There had previously been some stickers covering up the Dubbo, I think the GM from a long time ago with Dubbo City, but that all weathered off. So where the opportunities have come up, that's how it's been addressed, but not so much a targeted program. That's correct in that sense.
And sorry, further, Councillor Mann, I assume there was a extensive process initially. Cars were being changed when the amalgamation first occurred. There were probably a lot of highly visible. What's probably left over now are just probably some of the stragglers.
Yeah, and through Mr. Mayor, yes, more the regulation signs or signage on a water depot, those sorts of signs that aren't as high priority. That pulse of changeover came with the adoption of the new logo. And we are, and probably somewhat to your point, Councillor Mann, the team in the marketing communications under Ms. Kuma is working on that brand strategy to get that alignment, conciseness. So instead of potentially the different silos of council chasing after a different sign, to put that structure behind it. So then when we do something, it's always consistent, always professional. So that's a body of work that has been well underway and is soon to be completed, if my memory serves me correctly, Ms. Kuma. Yep, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any further, Councillor Mann? Okay, other discussion or debate? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, I'd support Councillor Black's couple of comments there, especially with respect to maybe just triaging those ones with wrong information or maybe are totally missing. But I can't help but think that we may not want to necessarily jump the gun and remove those old logos in case the council decides to de-amalgamate. So thanks.
So was that an amendment you were moving there, Councillor Wright, for demergers?
Not at this stage, thanks.
Thank you. Anything further, councillors? Councillor Black, you have a question?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CEO. In Councillor Ivy's forceful, impassioned speech, he mentioned a number of wrong signs. On page 474 of the business papers, there's the report little table there with the signs. It's got two categories where there's wrong information, 10 and 1, which equals 11 in my book. What was the number you said? 200 and something?
There was a question there. Was there somewhere, Councillor Black?
Yeah, I'm going to the CEO. What if Councillor Ivy's got the 200 wrong signs? 200, say 200, whatever you said. 206. Thank you. Knew it was something like that. 206 wrong signs. Do you consider all those other signs wrong, or just the ones in the table on page 474 where it says that wrong information, or is everything that has an old logo considered wrong? Because it's not in my book. Thank you.
So can you just clarify the question there? So you're asking the CEO?
So Councillor Ivy said 206, was it, wrong signs? On the information on page 474, I've got 11 signs in the wrong category. Is that correct? Thank you.
So, Mr. CEO, so you've got so there was, sorry, there's that one there, but
Yep.
that one over there which has got that, it's broken into different categories.
Yeah. So you've got various categories there with what's wrong, what's in poor condition. So I guess there's a number of reasons to replace signs. There's ones that are clapped out, end of life, and there's others that just have the complete wrong information, and that could include the branding. I guess I'd point out that a regulation sign with Dubbo City or Wellington, I think it was just Wellington Council, is harder to enforce if someone says, well, that doesn't have regulation. So there is for some signs, and important to be accuracy, particularly if you want to have an enforcement action around them. That's not a huge amount, I hasten to add.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any further councillors? Councillor Shattery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now I will echo it, Councillor Ivy. As a professional body, we should change this sign because I don't want to, like as a local, we know what Double Regional call. But when someone come from Sydney, Melbourne, or they never been in here, when they go through our like airport, there will be double city sign. When they come to the maybe taking photo in front of the regional council and there's a double regional council, there'll be like a little trivia for them, and I don't think that reflect really good for us as a professional body. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? No. Councillor Etheridge, you have right of reply if you wish to exercise that. No. Okay, thank you. We have that before us, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/26 Regional Precincts and Partnerships Program. Can someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Burns. Councillor Mann.
Declare a conflict of interest on CCL 24/26. Conflict is non-pecuniary and less than significant. The reason being that I own property in Blue Ridge Business Park, which is subject to the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
No.
Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you. So the next item is CCL 24/27, question on notice, update to roadworks, Tamworth Street Precinct Dubbo. You want to move that, Councillor Black? Moved by Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Just before you speak to that, Councillor Black, I just need Mr. Ryan to provide some slight clarification on the works there, if you want to provide that, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The first question there was about a section of Tamworth Street between Fitzroy to Palmer Street. I'd just like to clarify the response to that is actually in terms of a location is on Tamworth Street between Fitzroy and Stirling Street, not all the way through to Palmer. So it's those two blocks of roadworks that we're going to do there. But the rest of the answer of that is correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. So, Councillor Black, just thought that we put to clarify that before you spoke to it. Do you wish to speak to that?
Scheduled. Oh, turn on. Is it on? A question for you, Mr. Mayor. When are we scheduled to do the Tamworth Street, the Stirling Street to Palmer Street roadworks, then, please?
To you, to Mr. Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The section between Palmer and Stirling Street isn't in our 4-year program yet, and that's as far as I can see just at the moment to answer the question, but can certainly take that on notice to look at where it is programmed in.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Councillor Black.
Thank you. Lots of people in the community will be pleased to know that the Tamworth Street pavement upgrade reconstruction works are scheduled to commence in the second week of March this year. It'll be about a 13-week project. If everything goes well and it doesn't rain too much, should be completed by early June. Lots of people comment about how that the works are going and where things are up to, so that'll be a great relief to many in the community. And the second one to do with the roundabout at Tamworth Street and Darling Street, the works there. For those watching at home, the response says that the pavement reconstruction has been deferred until the next financial year. Investigations have revealed that the water mains will need to be relocated within the vicinity of the roundabout as part of the proposed roadworks. That should happen in May, completed in June of this year. So we're moving towards that. And could I just ask a clarifying question through you, Mr. Mayor? So after the water main works are completed, then will it be straight on to fixing the pavement? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. To Mr. CEO, to Mr. Ryan.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, no, they won't be exactly straight after. We're looking at our program now for next financial year, and they're not straight up in terms of a July start. And I'm sorry, I don't have any further detail in terms of the exact start programming date that we have for that.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Further, Councillor Black?
No, that's all right, thanks.
Any further questions or comments, councillors? Remembering that the recommendation here is that just we note the report, but you can take questions or make comments on the information in that report if you wish. There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Next item, CCL 24/28. Question on notice, Lions Park West Dubbo 3D printed toilet design methodology. Councillor Black.
I move that.
Thank you. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Black, you should speak to that.
For those watching at home, my question on notice was that in light of the answer provided to the December meeting last year regarding the 3D printed toilet at Lions Park West Dubbo, what was the methodology used to determine how many toilet cubicles and urinal trough spaces were required in that park for a new toilet block? The reason that I've asked that is because we don't have a toilet policy, public toilet policy, that spells out how many we would require for each different park with its usage. So people might want to say, oh, that's a stupid thing, but it is actually going to be required at some stage and would help avoid instances such as this and the much talked about Cameron Park in Wellington. So we've got there, put in as many toilets as we can, a couple of additional female cubicles, all that's fantastic. I would just note though that the answer in December last year when I asked about this is why I asked the follow-up question to do with basically the design, it says the original expression of interest indicated that the contractor was to supply design and layout that is flexible. If we had a bespoke tailored toilet policy for Dubbo Regional Council area, copied off another council and just melded into what we want, then we wouldn't have the contractor insofar as designing the layout of the toilets, would actually have what we really need here. Thank you, and thank you for the response.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any further questions or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, councillors, is CCL 24/29, the comments and matters of urgency. So I'll start on my left with Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just wanted to say welcome back to everybody and Happy New Year, and hope everybody is refreshed for 2024. Not much else to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Mann.
Just briefly, I'd like to get in early and wish all the visitors to town on the 23rd and 24th of February, which is going to be several thousand. I hope Dubbo puts its best foot forward, puts on a great show, and everyone enjoys their time in our beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Goff.
Nothing this month. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, all I wanted to say was welcome back to everybody, and one thing that sort of made me chuckle a bit over the holiday period was when I did a lot of driving and got a lot of complaints about the roadworks. So I think that's a good thing. These are the people that complain about no roadworks before, but I just thought that was something worth mentioning. It's good to see a lot of roadworks happening. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Black.
I recently had the opportunity to attend a sod turn in Orange for the Orange Conservatorium of Music, and that prompted me to think of how we're going in Dubbo with a Conservatorium of Music. Now, some of the interesting facts from the Orange Conservatorium of Music are that there's a $10 million federal grant, $5 million state grant, but Orange City Council, they were going to put in $15 million, half the money, but that's blown out by 11% to $18.3 million. But they are going to have, they're investing in their community, they're investing in the art space, they're investing in a Conservatorium of Music, which has got 40 practice rooms and a whole heap of other facilities, a bit of a tiered theatre type thing. And I'm reminded that our conservatorium here is having a bit of trouble getting a lease or working out what's doing with the Department of Education on the old Dubbo Central infants blocks, where they are and what was going to happen with Carpet Court, and how they thought they were getting a peppercorn lease for 5+5, but then we hear the mayor on the radio saying it's going to be 70,000 a year for the second 5 years and things like that. And I'm also keeping a close eye on what's happening with the old Dubbo City Bowling Club. And we know that there was a resolution on the council books for many years to do with a conservatorium / cultural precinct at that site. When I hear comments, I was listening to some stuff there today, some of the mayor's Facebook stuff. He'll be pleased with the plug. But when I hear things that the land swap deal with the RSL not going ahead for the Dubbo City Bowling Club and the block of land down in Keswick Estate, that it was the last hangover from the last council, that it was tying up loose ends to effectively not go ahead of that land swap, or the way it panned out, and that there was no strategic purpose or business case. I was talking to someone around town and they said, your strategic purpose and your business case is that you own all the land around that site, and it would be fantastic for a cultural precinct. So hopefully council is able to get our hands on that block, because that would be something for the next 150, 200 years for the community, rather than just see houses built all over it. There's plenty of places to build houses in Dubbo, but there's not many centrally located blocks next to a whole stack of council-owned facilities and the old Dubbo High School. That would be fantastic for Conservatorium of Music, something for the Dubbo filmmakers who are now looking for a new home, and other cultural groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Etheridge. Okay, thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick one. On Tuesday the 30th of January, we there was a number of councillors had the opportunity to head out for the Eucarina, Eucarina, the far reaches of our LGA, to discuss the proposed voluntary planning agreement, maybe, and the Kerrs Creek wind farm out there. So I just want to thank all the residents of Eucarina and surrounds who actually came to that. I think maybe we got about 70 or 80 people in the room there that night, and they brought up a lot of different thoughts and ideas, and certainly a lot of councillors walked away with there thinking that there was a lot of things we'd heard for the first time that we weren't aware were even issues in that particular area. So I guess that's one thing that highlighted to me was for people in those smaller communities that aren't necessarily in your Dubbo or your Wellington, that you're not necessarily forgotten, but certainly there's a lot of issues that might be in those smaller communities that we don't hear, and you don't have to wait for a town meeting to be called for a particular item to raise those with councillors. So certainly all our contact details are on the website. Reach out, shoot an email if there's some burning issues. We might be able to help, but certainly we can lend an ear and hear your concerns, and if we can assist, well, certainly we will. So, but anyway, it's good to see the community of Eucarina and surrounds out there that night anyway, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Ivey.
Just a couple of positive things. Wellington Australia Day. Again, we ran it, the ceremony on the eve of Australia Day. Put it back an hour, which overcame some of the heat problems of the previous year. The only thing is it was even a hotter day this year than last. But still, it was very successful. We had fairly good numbers, perhaps not as quite as many as last year, but as I say, given the heat, that's to be expected. The whole push is to try to make the whole Australia Day more inclusive by recognising the date for the 26th of January being a very important date for Indigenous people, because it's a day that perhaps their 40 or 50 or 60,000 years of culture was interrupted, and I think that surely is a date which, if I were Indigenous, I would want to recognise. We're trying to make it an inclusive event. We had Herb Smith as give an address on behalf of an Aboriginal perspective, and gosh, he was good. It was terrific. Rhys Muldoon was our ambassador. I didn't actually know of Rhys Muldoon before he was appointed as our ambassador. He's a television and film actor, and he flew up from Tasmania, actually, where he now lives, and subsequently went home, wrote a letter to the local paper where he said that without doubt the Wellington Australia Day was the best was the best Australia Day event he'd attended, and he'd attended as an ambassador to many cities, towns, and even suburbs over the years. And he thought that the Wellington event took the cake, so that was pretty good. The other good event which I attended recently was the GP Registrar evening at the Western Plains Cultural Centre, whereby I think we had 23 registrars, GP registrars, who have come into our area to finish their training, or to finish, they are qualified doctors, but to do part of their training to become a registered GP, in the sense of which that is now a specialty course. And I thought it was really good, actually. There were quite a number of people there from all the various representatives of the health and education faculties, and it was just a very good feeling, and everyone seemed to be really enthusiastic. I'm told that idea where the council actually runs that evening to encourage and welcome and instruct GPs is a first. It's no other councils in New South Wales, I think, at least, have done it, and I would have thought it really was a fantastic initiative, and it was very effective. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just I would like to highlighting one of the event is upcoming is Clean Up Australia Day. It's a little bit disappointing for me to see like a double regional council not facilitate or not part of that Clean Up Australia Day. I could not see their name on the list. Can see almost all the council in there from New South Wales. Anyway, it will be held on 3rd of March, and I'm organizing one Clean Up Australia Day. I do every year, but last year I missed out. So it will be held on 8 o'clock at South Lake Parade, and I would like to see many community members to come join, and we can clean up, make sure our environment is clean. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. So just following a couple of those items, the GP Registrar night was an excellent night, Councillor Ivey, and the following night we had the Sydney University School of Rural Health. The new students, Year 1 students, started there, so that's the 4-year program they've got now. So that was another welcome event the next night. So we hope that after their 4 years of training, they'll stay around, just like we hope the GP Registrars get excited about being out here. The Australia Day event in Wellington was excellent, Councillor Ivey, and the Australia Day event in Dubbo was excellent as well. And many of the councillors were there at that. A good crowd, probably 500 in the crowd, so I think very well supported there. And while we're on the topic of Eucharia, we also had, during the period from our last council meeting, the Ungala Wind Farm. So Andrew Forrest, Twiggy Forrest, was in Wellington for the sod turning of the Ungala Wind Farm. So that was significant. Chris Bowen, the minister, the federal minister, was there as well. So significant event around that. And obviously there's been a fair bit of positive publicity about his visit here. There's also a bit of publicity on the 7:30 report about renewables in general in the area. And while we're on wind, I do apologise to the Kite Flying Festival, because they invited me down to fly some kites with them, and I destroyed 3 of their kites. So it wasn't the most successful kite flying from my perspective, but it was great to see a lot of people down at Lady Cutler flying kites as a real festival. And again, this is one of the things we are learning as we get our multicultural community developing. We're learning about different festivals from all over the world, and that certainly was an Indian-based festival. And again, lots of fun had there, except for the people that donated their kites to me. So thank you, councillors. We now move into confidential items under Section 10A of the Local Government Act. The next items, being CCL 2430, 31, 32, 33, 35 and 36, have been identified as likely to be discussed in a closed session of council. Can I have someone move us into confidential session, please? Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. We've had no applications from members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public. Do any members of the public in the public gallery have any comments to make regarding the proposal to hear the items in a closed session of council? Please speak now if you do wish to do that. No? Okay, so any questions or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. So we'll now move to a closed session, the time being 7:33 p.m. The streaming will now be turned off. Any members of the public will be asked to leave the chamber. The chamber will be reopened and the live stream restarted after deliberations on these matters, with the resolutions to be made public. Please stop web streaming. Council return to open session at 7:56 p.m. Welcome back. I'll now read the resolutions from the confidential sessions of council. In relation to CCL 24/30, the recommendation is that council engage TWS Evolution Proprietary Limited to undertake modification works on the Geary water pump station for the quoted price of $704,000, including GST, in accordance with the pre-qualified LGP 420 procurement panel. That the scope of works provided by TWS Evolution Proprietary Limited in relation to the proposed modification of the Geary raw water pump station be treated as commercial in confidence. The council delegate the Chief Executive Officer to approve the extension options for this contract if required. The council delegate the Chief Executive Officer to approve contract variations for this contract subject to budget limitations. That all documentation in relation to this matter remain confidential to council. That all documentation in relation to this matter be signed under the common seal of council. In relation to CCL 24/31, the recommendation that Interflow Proprietary Limited be engaged for the 2023-24 financial year utilising the LGP 420 schedule of rates. That council delegate the Chief Executive Officer to approve the extension options for this contract if required. The council delegate the Chief Executive Officer to approve contract variations for this contract subject to budget limitations. That all documentation in relation to this matter remain confidential to council. That all documentation in relation to this matter be signed under the common seal of council. In relation to CCL 24/32, the recommendation is that council directly engage Interflow Proprietary Limited as per the pre-qualified panel LGP 420 in an amount of 1,009,162.11, including GST. The council delegate the Chief Executive Officer to approve the extension options for this contract if required. The council delegate the Chief Executive Officer to approve contract variations for this contract subject to budget limitations. That all documentation in relation to this matter remain confidential to council. That all documentation in relation to this matter be signed under the common seal of council. In relation to CCL 24/33, the recommendation is that this report be noted. The council proceeds with issuing an expression of interest to identify the potential of entering either a long-term lease or sale of the parcel of land at Lot 1 DP 263339. That proceeds of the lease or sale is used for community priorities identified in community strategic documents. That all documentation in relation to this matter remain confidential to council. In relation to CCL 24/34, the recommendation is that council agree to enter into an agreement to lease land to Squadron Energy or an associated entity of same for the property on the key terms, generally as described within the body of the report. The council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to negotiate the other terms of the agreement to lease, provided that all key terms must generally be in accordance with the terms as outlined in this report. That it be noted that a subsequent report shall be provided to council for consideration of the negotiated terms of the agreement to lease. That all information in relation to this matter is kept confidential. That any documents requiring execution by council relating to this report be executed under the common seal of council. In relation to CCL 24/35, the recommendation is that council approve the compulsory acquisition of approximately A, 30,285 square metres from Lot 11 on DP 1293863, B, 16,837 square metres from Lot 51 on DP 612578, and C, 27,445 square metres from Lot 2 on DP 1246347, pursuant to S177 and S178 of the Roads Act 1993, New South Wales, and upon acquisition classify the land as operational land. That council register acquisition plans against Lot 11 on DP 1293863, Lot 51 on DP 612578, and Lot 2 on DP 1246347. That council approve the making of an acquisition to the Minister for Local Government to issue a proposed acquisition notice under the Land Acquisition Just Terms Compensation Act 1991, New South Wales, for council to compulsorily acquire part of Lot 11 on DP 1293863, Lot 51 on DP 612578, and Lot 2 on DP 1246347. The council approve the making of an application to the Governor of New South Wales for the publication of an acquisition notice in the New South Wales Government Gazette under the Land Acquisition Just Terms Compensation Act 1991, New South Wales, for council to compulsorily acquire part of Lot 11 on DP 1293863, Lot 51 on DP 612578, and Lot 2 on DP 1246347. That council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to negotiate, finalise and execute any applications, notices, documents and compensation claims required to be executed as part of the process for council to compulsorily require part of Lot 11 on DP 1293863, Lot 51 on DP 612578 and Lot 2 on DP 1246347. That any documents which may not be executed by the Chief Executive Officer under delegation be executed under the common seal of council. That all documentation in relation to this matter remain confidential to council. In relation to CCL 24/36, the recommendation is that the information contained within the report of the Manager, People, Culture and Safety, dated 2 February 2024 be noted, that all documentation in relation to this matter remain confidential to Council. There are no further items for consideration of the ordinary Council meeting, and I declare the meeting closed, the time being 8:01 p.m. Web stream is now being completed. Thank you for your attendance.